My name is Catherine Parker, 34 years old, and I never expected to be standing at my boss Diana Montgomery's funeral, clutching an envelope that would change my life. Inside were legal documents transferring her $1.2 million client portfolio to me personally. The note read, "They will try to take everything. Do not let them." As I stared at her casket, I realized Diana had given me both a gift and a time bomb. If you have ever had to make a career-defining decision, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I faced the aftermath of my boss's final gift. I had been at Meridian Consulting for 6 years when everything changed. My journey there had not been easy. After graduating with my business degree from Northwestern, I had applied to dozens of marketing firms before Meridian gave me a chance. The interview with Diana Montgomery was unlike any other. While most interviewers asked predictable questions about my 5-year plan, Diana challenged me with real business scenarios and pushed me to think on my feet. "I do not need someone who can recite textbook answers," she had said, her piercing blue eyes evaluating my every reaction. "I need someone who can adapt when things go sideways because, in this business, they always do." I was intimidated but also inspired. When she offered me the job, I knew working under her would be demanding but also the best education I could get. Diana had a reputation for being brutally honest and having impossibly high standards. Many young professionals lasted mere months under her leadership before transferring or quitting altogether. The first year was indeed brutal. Diana rejected my presentations, made me redo reports multiple times, and never seemed satisfied. But unlike other managers who criticized without direction, Diana always explained exactly why something was not working and how to improve it. She did not coddle, but she did teach. "You have potential, Catherine," she told me, after a particularly tough client meeting where she had corrected me repeatedly. "That is why I push you harder than the others." By my second year, something shifted. Diana began including me in higher-level meetings and assigning me more significant responsibilities. I started to understand her methods and anticipate her expectations. She was grooming me, though I did not fully understand it at the time. In my third year, Diana was diagnosed with breast cancer. She told me in confidence, swearing me to secrecy from the rest of the staff. Diana was intensely private and refused to let her illness affect how people perceived her professionally. I became her unofficial backup, handling clients when she had treatments and helping manage her workload without anyone noticing. "If the executive team smells weakness, they will circle like sharks," she warned me. "This place runs on power and perception. Never forget that." During her treatments, our professional relationship evolved into friendship. We would often work late, ordering dinner to her office while strategizing client approaches. Diana shared stories about her 20-year career, the challenges of being one of the few women in leadership during the early days, and how she had built her client roster through sheer determination. "In this business, your relationships are everything," she told me. "The company thinks they own the clients, but clients stay because of people they trust. Remember that." As Diana recovered and returned to full strength, she kept me close. I noticed she was more protective of me in company politics, shielding me from the constant power plays and credit stealing that plagued Meridian. The executive floor was a minefield of ego and ambition, with VPs constantly undermining each other to curry favor with the CEO, Brian Chandler. Diana seemed increasingly frustrated with the company culture over the next 2 years. She would make cryptic comments after executive meetings, hinting at ethical compromises being made to please shareholders. When a major client was overbilled accidentally, Diana fought a private battle with the finance department to correct it, worried the client would discover the discrepancy. This would never have happened when Thomas Meridian was running things. She confided in me. "Brian cares about quarterly numbers, not long-term relationships or integrity." In her final year, Diana became more deliberate in our mentoring sessions. She shared deeper insights into client relationships, introduced me personally to key contacts, and insisted I lead more meetings while she observed. I did not realize she was preparing me for something more until it was too late. "Always have your own backup plan, Catherine," she told me during one of our last dinners. "Companies are not loyal no matter what they claim in their mission statements." When Diana's cancer returned aggressively, she took what everyone thought was a temporary medical leave. Only I knew how serious it was. I visited her at home, bringing work updates and company gossip to distract her from the pain. Even then, she was strategic, asking specifically about certain clients and making sure I understood their unique needs and preferences. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Diana had passed peacefully in her sleep. I sat at my desk in shock, memories flooding through my mind as the office buzzed with the news. The corporate response was immediate and hollow. An all-staff email expressed deep sadness at the loss of a valued team member, announced a memorial service, and in the same breath outlined the continuity plan for her clients. I felt physically ill reading it. Diana had been with Meridian for over 20 years, had generated millions in revenue, had mentored countless professionals, and was reduced to a continuity plan before her body was even cold. But I had no idea then how prophetic Diana's warnings would prove to be, or how she had already set in motion a plan that would change everything. The funeral was held at Westview Chapel, a beautiful stone building with stained glass windows that cast colorful shadows across the gathered mourners. I arrived early, wanting a moment of quiet before facing the day. Diana's family was small, just her elderly mother and a daughter who lived across the country. They had arranged a dignified service that reflected Diana's no-nonsense personality. As people began arriving, I noticed the clear division between Diana's personal connections and the corporate attendees. Her family and friends dressed in respectful black faces, etched with genuine grief. The Meridian contingent arrived in designer suits, expressions carefully arranged to display appropriate sorrow, but eyes constantly scanning the room, assessing who was present and who was not. CEO Brian Chandler made a brief appearance, shook hands with Diana's daughter, and left before the service even began, citing an unavoidable board meeting. My direct supervisor, Stephanie Wells, whispered throughout the ceremony to Ethan Collins from HR, occasionally glancing my way. I tried to focus on the service and my memories of Diana, but I could feel the corporate politics continuing even here. As the service concluded, I noticed a man I did not recognize watching me intently. He was in his 60s, distinguished, looking with salt and pepper hair, carrying a leather portfolio. When our eyes met, he gave me a slight nod that seemed meaningful. I looked away, uncomfortable with his scrutiny during such a personal moment. After the final prayers, people began moving toward the reception area. I stayed behind, wanting a moment alone to say my private goodbye to Diana. As the chapel emptied, the man approached me. "Miss Parker, I am Harold Winters, Diana Montgomery's personal attorney," he said, extending his hand. "Diana asked me to speak with you privately after the service." My heart raced as I followed him to a small side room. Once the door closed, he opened his portfolio and removed a sealed envelope with my name written in Diana's familiar handwriting. "Diana was very specific about delivering this to you personally today," Harold explained. "She wanted me to verify your identity and ensure no one else was present when you received it." With shaking hands, I broke the seal and pulled out several legal documents and a handwritten letter. As I scanned the pages, my confusion grew. They appeared to be client contracts, transfer of relationship documents, and contact information for 15 major clients, totaling over $1.2 million in annual billing. "I do not understand," I whispered, looking up at Harold. "These are Meridian's biggest clients." "Diana was very clear," Harold replied gently. "She personally maintained these client relationships for many years. In most cases, she was legally listed as the primary service provider with Meridian, as the secondary entity. These documents transfer her rights to those client relationships directly to you." I stared at him in disbelief. "But that is impossible. The company owns the clients." Harold shook his head. "Not exactly. Diana was very careful with her contracts. These particular clients signed agreements with her specifically with Meridian providing the infrastructure. It is unusual but perfectly legal." Diana was quite forward-thinking in how she structured these relationships. I turned to the handwritten letter, recognizing Diana's elegant script. "Catherine asterisk. If you are reading this, I have lost my final battle. Do not grieve too long. We both knew this was coming. Asterisk. What you hold are the results of 20 years of relationship building. These clients have been the foundation of my career, and they have been loyal to me, not Meridian. I have spent the past year preparing them for this transition, speaking of your abilities and introducing you as my successor. Asterisk. The company will try to claim ownership of these relationships. They will tell you these clients belong to Meridian. They do not. I have confirmed this legally. Each client has the right to choose who represents them. I believe they will choose you if you reach out quickly and confidently." Asterisk. Meridian has changed, Catherine. The values that built this company have been replaced by greed and short-term thinking. You deserve better, and so do these clients. Asterisk. This is both your escape route and your future. Use it wisely. You are ready even if you do not believe it yet. Asterisk. With confidence in your abilities and affection, asterisk. Diana. I looked up at Harold, tears blurring my vision. She planned this all along. He nodded. Diana was diagnosed as terminal 6 months ago. She has been putting these arrangements in place ever since. She believed in you very much, Miss Parker. I sat down, heavily overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Diana had done. This was not just a professional opportunity. It was a life-changing gift from a mentor who had seen my potential even when I doubted myself. It was also, I realized with growing anxiety, a potential declaration of war against Meridian Consulting. What happens now? I asked Harold. That is entirely up to you, he replied. These documents are in order. The clients have the legal right to follow you should you leave Meridian. But the company will not surrender $1.2 million in annual revenue without a fight. I spent that night pacing my apartment, alternating between gratitude for Diana's faith in me and terror at the prospect of going against a company with vastly more resources than I had. I reread her letter a dozen times, searching for guidance. The phrase escape route kept jumping out at me. Had Diana seen something coming that I had missed? By morning, I had made my decision. I would not immediately declare my intentions to Meridian. I needed time to think, plan, and potentially reach out to the clients. I would keep Diana's gift secret while determining my next steps. As I dressed for work, Diana's voice seemed to echo in my mind. In this business, timing is everything. I tucked the documents into my personal safe and headed to the office, unsure of what awaited me, but certain that everything had changed. The Meridian offices felt different when I returned after the funeral. Diana's death had cast a shadow over the normally bustling space, though I quickly realized the somber atmosphere was largely performative. A memorial table with her photo and a guest book sat in the lobby, but most employees merely glanced at it as they hurried to meetings and calls. I had barely settled at my desk when Stephanie Wells, the department director, who had been Diana's peer, stopped by. She wore a sympathetic expression that did not reach her eyes. "Catherine, how are you holding up?" she asked, leaning against my cubicle wall. "We all know you were close to Diana." "I am managing, thank you," I replied cautiously. Good. We need to discuss transition plans. I will be taking over Diana's role and client load temporarily." She smiled thinly. "I will need all her files, client contacts, and any notes on current projects by end of day." I nodded noncommittally. "I will gather what I have access to." "Excellent. Also, Ethan from HR wants to meet with you at 11 to discuss your role moving forward." With that, she strode away toward Diana's corner office, where maintenance staff were already removing personal items. The speed with which they were erasing Diana's presence was jarring. By lunchtime, Stephanie had moved into Diana's office and had maintenance changing the nameplate on the door. Diana's personal effects were packed into boxes that sat ignored in the hallway. 20 years of service disposed of in hours. My meeting with Ethan Collins, the HR director, was equally disturbing. A thin man with perpetually pursed lips, he sat across from me in a conference room, tablet in hand. "Catherine, first our condolences on Diana's passing. I know you worked closely together." He did not look up from his screen as he spoke. "We need to ensure a smooth transition for all of Diana's accounts. I will need you to provide comprehensive documentation on all client relationships, contact preferences, outstanding issues, and billing arrangements." I chose my words carefully. "I can certainly provide what is in the company system." Ethan looked up sharply. "We will need everything, Catherine, including any notes or information Diana may have shared with you directly." I maintained a neutral expression. "Of course, I will compile what I have." That afternoon, I provided Ethan and Stephanie with the client information that existed on Meridian's servers, which was substantial but incomplete. Diana had always kept certain details, particularly personal information about clients, separate from company records. These were precisely the kinds of insights included in the portfolio she had left me, details that built true relationships beyond transactional business. As I worked, I overheard a conversation between Stephanie and Marcus Jenkins, another department director, outside my cubicle. "Brian wants Diana's major accounts distributed among the executive team," Marcus said. Henderson Manufacturing and Global Partners should come to me since they align with my other clients. I disagree, Stephanie replied sharply. I have history with Henderson. Besides, splitting them up makes no sense when I can oversee them all for continuity. We will discuss allocation at tomorrow's executive meeting, Marcus countered. Brian has the final say. They continued down the hall, already fighting over the spoils of Diana's career like vultures squabbling over remains. I felt a surge of anger, remembering how Diana had meticulously built those client relationships over years, understanding their unique needs and preferences. To the executive team, they were merely numbers on a spreadsheet to be claimed. The next morning, my cell phone rang with a number I recognized immediately. Thomas Henderson, CEO of Henderson Manufacturing, one of Diana's oldest clients, and part of the portfolio she had left me. Catherine, Tom Henderson here. I was so sorry to hear about Diana. She was one of the good ones. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. She thought very highly of you as well. Listen, Diana mentioned you would be taking over our account, if anything happened to her. I have some concerns about our upcoming campaign that I would like to discuss. Can we meet tomorrow? My heart raced. Diana had actually spoken to him about me. Absolutely, Mr. Henderson. I would be happy to meet. We arranged a breakfast meeting at his preferred restaurant. After hanging up, I realized I had a decision to make. I could inform Stephanie about the call, effectively surrendering this connection to Meridian, or I could meet with him as Diana had intended, keeping my options open. I chose the latter, calling in sick the next morning to meet Tom Henderson privately. The meeting went remarkably well. Henderson was impressed with my knowledge of his business and appreciation for the relationship Diana had built. By the end of breakfast, he was explicitly stating his preference to continue working with me. Diana told me you were the real brains behind our last 2 campaigns anyway, he chuckled. Said you had the fresh ideas while she provided the experience. Seems like a good combination to me. I returned to the office, floating on confidence, only to find Stephanie waiting at my desk, arms crossed. Henderson's office called looking for you for their scheduled meeting. Funny, there was nothing on Diana's calendar about that. Her eyes narrowed. Where were you this morning, Catherine? I had a personal appointment, I replied evenly. Mr. Henderson reached out to me directly. We have rescheduled. All client communications go through proper channels now, she snapped. Forward any requests directly to me. You do not have the authority to meet with Diana's clients independently. I nodded, maintaining a calm exterior while internally something hardened. The meeting with Henderson had confirmed what Diana believed: the clients would follow the relationship, not the company logo. More importantly, it showed me I could do this. I could actually step into Diana's shoes and succeed. Over the next few days, I began receiving more calls from Diana's clients, clearly part of her predetermined plan. She must have given them my contact information and instructions to reach out after her passing. Each call reinforced my growing confidence, and each had to be carefully managed to avoid raising Stephanie's suspicions further. I was living a double life, performing my expected role at Meridian, while secretly laying groundwork for a potential departure. One afternoon, I nearly jumped out of my skin when Stephanie walked past my cubicle while I was on the phone with Global Partners, another key client from Diana's portfolio. Yes, Mr. Daniels, I understand your concerns about the transition, I was saying. I assure you that the level of service Diana established will continue. Stephanie paused, listening openly. I smoothly pivoted. I will be sure to communicate that to the team handling your account. Stephanie Wells will be reaching out to formally introduce herself as the new relationship manager. As soon as Stephanie moved on, I returned to my actual conversation with Robert Daniels, carefully explaining that while I was currently at Meridian, there might be changes coming that would benefit our working relationship. He seemed to understand my careful wording, replying that he would keep an open mind about future arrangements. By the end of the week, it was clear Stephanie's suspicions were growing. I caught her watching me during calls and asking pointed questions about client communications. I knew my time was running short. I needed to accelerate my plans before Meridian realized what was happening. That weekend, I contacted Samantha Jennings, a lawyer friend from college, who specialized in business law. We met at a coffee shop far from Meridian's offices, where I explained my situation and showed her the documents Diana had left me. This is fascinating, Samantha said, examining the papers. Diana was quite strategic. These agreements specifically name her as the service provider with Meridian, essentially acting as her support structure. It is unusual but perfectly valid. So the clients can legally choose to follow me if I leave Meridian, I asked. Yes, but with some important caveats, she cautioned. You cannot actively solicit them while still employed by Meridian, as that would violate your employment contract. However, once you leave, you are free to offer your services, and they are free to choose you over Meridian. And the documents Diana gave me, those transfer her rights to you, which is significant. But remember, the clients themselves have the final say. They can choose to stay with Meridian, go with you, or hire someone else entirely. Armed with this legal clarity, I began meticulously planning my exit strategy. First, I formed an LLC called Montgomery Strategic Partners, naming it in Diana's honor. I opened business bank accounts, created professional email addresses, and designed simple but elegant branding that echoed Diana's professional style while establishing my own identity. Next, I began drafting individualized proposals for each of the 15 clients in the portfolio, highlighting my understanding of their specific needs based on my work with them alongside Diana. I worked late into the night at my apartment, careful not to leave any trace of these preparations on my work computer or in the office. I also scouted potential office spaces, finding a small but professional suite in a building across town with flexible lease terms. It would be tight financially until client revenue started flowing, but I had savings that could cover 3 months of expenses if necessary. One key decision was whether to launch this venture alone or bring in partners. After careful consideration, I reached out to Jessica Turner, a former Meridian employee who had left 6 months earlier after conflicts with Stephanie. Jessica had been another of Diana's protégés and had complementary skills to mine, particularly in digital marketing strategy. When we met for dinner, I was careful not to violate my non-solicitation agreement. I am considering some career changes, I said vaguely. If I were to start my own marketing consultancy, would you theoretically be interested in discussing a partnership? Jessica's eyes lit up. Theoretically, I would be very interested, especially if certain clients I enjoyed working with might be involved. Her understanding was immediate, and her enthusiasm encouraging. We agreed to continue our theoretical discussions with Jessica, beginning to help with preparations while maintaining plausible deniability. The double life was exhausting. By day, I performed my Meridian duties, impeccably avoiding raising any additional suspicions. By night, I built my escape plan piece by piece. The stress began to show physically dark circles forming under my eyes as sleep became a luxury. One particularly close call came when I was working late at the office, finalizing a presentation for Meridian, but taking a quick call from Robert Daniels of Global Partners on my personal cell phone. I had not heard Stephanie return to collect some files. Yes, I have been considering some new approaches to your market expansion, I was saying. The ideas Diana and I discussed before her passing have a lot of potential. Catherine Stephanie's voice cut through the quiet office. Who are you speaking with at this hour? I managed to end the call smoothly. Just my mother, I lied. She always worries when I work late. Stephanie's eyes narrowed, but she simply reminded me to set the alarm when I left and departed. The close call accelerated my timeline. I needed to make my move before Stephanie connected the dots. The final piece fell into place when I secured a meeting with Evelyn Carter, a small business loan officer at First National Bank. With my business plan, the transferred client agreements, and Diana's explicit endorsement, I qualified for a modest business loan that would provide additional runway during the transition. As I signed the loan documents, a strange calm settled over me. For weeks I had been consumed by fear, doubt, and anxiety, but sitting in that bank office, committing my name to a new future, I felt Diana's confidence in me like a physical presence. I could do this. I would do this not just for myself, but to honor her legacy and her vision for what business relationships should be. That evening, I finalized my resignation letter, outlined my client communication strategy for immediately after leaving Meridian, and confirmed the office lease starting the following Monday. Everything was in place. After a restless night, I dressed with particular care the next morning, choosing a suit Diana had once complimented. Whatever happened next, I was as prepared as I could be. Little did I know that Meridian was preparing their own move against me, one that would force my hand sooner than I had planned. I arrived at the office Monday morning to find an email from Stephanie, requesting an urgent meeting at 9:30 with her and Ethan from HR. The tone was clipped professional, but with an underlying tension that set alarm bells ringing. They had discovered something, or at least suspected enough to confront me. I used the hour before the meeting to ensure my personal items were minimal and easily collected. I cleared browser histories, removed any personal files from my computer, and mentally prepared for what was coming. When my phone rang at 9:25, I answered with practiced calm. "Catherine, please come to the conference room now," Stephanie said without preamble. I walked into the glass-walled meeting room to find not just Stephanie and Ethan, but also Marcus Jenkins and Thomas Wilson, the company's legal counsel. Their expressions ranged from Stephanie's barely concealed triumph to Thomas's professional neutrality. "Please sit down," Catherine Ethan began once the door closed. "We need to discuss some concerning developments." I took a seat across from them, back straight expression, neutral heart pounding against my ribs. "It has come to our attention that you have been having unauthorized communications with several of Meridian's key clients," Stephanie said, sliding a folder across the table. "Specifically clients formerly managed by Diana Montgomery." I opened the folder to find printouts of phone records highlighting calls between my personal cell phone and several client numbers, along with an email I had sent to Henderson Manufacturing from my personal account, responding to a question Tom had asked directly. "We also have reports from 2 clients that you suggested there might be changes coming to their account management," Marcus added. "Language that implies you were preparing them for some sort of transition outside of Meridian's approved processes." I maintained my composure, considering my response carefully. I have had relationships with these clients for years while working with Diana. They reached out to me after her passing with questions and concerns. I was helping maintain those relationships for Meridian. "By using your personal contact information rather than official channels," Thomas Wilson asked, his legal training evident in his precise questioning. "Several calls came to my personal cell because the clients had that number from previous project work," I explained truthfully, if not completely. Stephanie's eyes narrowed. "We believe you are attempting to misappropriate company property, specifically client relationships and proprietary information. This is a direct violation of your employment contract and company policy." "Clients are not property," I replied evenly. "They choose who they work with based on relationships and results." "Those relationships were built while you were a Meridian employee, using Meridian resources," Thomas countered. "Furthermore, we have evidence you accessed client files beyond your immediate responsibilities." The meeting continued in this vein for nearly an hour. I was careful not to admit to any specific plans or actions that would constitute clear contract violations, while they were equally careful not to make accusations they could not substantiate. It was a professional dance on the edge of a knife. Finally, Ethan slid another document across the table. "In light of these concerns, we are placing you on administrative leave pending an investigation. You will surrender your company phone and laptop immediately and have no contact with any Meridian clients during this period." I glanced at the document without touching it. Being placed on leave would actually give me time to set up my new business, but it would also prevent me from accessing any additional information I might need from Meridian systems. I had to decide quickly whether to accept this outcome or force their hand. "I understand your concerns," I said finally. "However, I believe Diana made her intentions for client continuity clear before her passing. Diana's personal wishes are irrelevant to company policy and your contractual obligations," Thomas stated flatly. Perhaps I acknowledged, but I wonder if the clients would see it that way. Diana built those relationships over decades. They trusted her judgment. I could see the flash of concern cross their faces. They had not expected me to push back so directly. Stephanie recovered first her professional mask, slipping to reveal the anger beneath. "Are you threatening to poach Meridian clients, Catherine? Because that would constitute grounds for immediate termination and legal action." I met her gaze steadily. "I am simply stating a fact about client relationships. They are built on trust, not corporate ownership." The tension in the room was palpable. After a silent exchange of glances, Stephanie nodded to Ethan, who typed something on his tablet. Thomas Wilson excused himself and left the room. "Catherine Parker," Stephanie said formally, "Meridian Consulting is terminating your employment effective immediately for violation of company policies regarding client communications and confidential information. You will be escorted to your desk to collect personal belongings, and then out of the building. Your final paycheck will include payment through today and any accrued vacation time." I had expected to feel fear or even panic at this moment. Instead, a strange sense of relief washed over me. The double life was over. Diana's plan was now in motion irrevocably. "I understand," I said calmly, and then unable to help myself. I smiled slightly. Stephanie looked taken aback by my reaction. "Pack your desk." "You are terminated," she repeated, as if I might not have understood the gravity of the situation. My smile remained as I stood. "I will need boxes for my things." A security guard appeared to escort me to my cubicle, where I efficiently packed my few personal items, while curious colleagues pretended not to watch. I had prepared for this, leaving nothing important at the office. Within 15 minutes, I was walking through the lobby, a small box in my armed security escort at my side. As the elevator doors closed behind me, I let out a long breath. 6 years at Meridian had ended not with the resignation letter I had prepared, but with termination. Yet strangely, I felt not defeated, but liberated. Diana had warned me they would try to take everything. Instead, they had inadvertently accelerated my plans and strengthened my resolve. By firing me, Meridian had released me from certain contractual restrictions. I was now free to immediately contact clients and offer my services through Montgomery Strategic Partners. As I walked to my car, I pulled out my phone and made my first call as an independent business owner to Jessica Turner. "It happened," I told her when she answered. "I have been terminated." "Are you okay?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "Better than okay," I replied, surprising myself with the truth of it. "I am free. Time to launch." The next morning felt surreal. Instead of fighting traffic to reach Meridian's downtown offices, I drove to the small suite I had leased for Montgomery Strategic Partners. The space was modest but professional, with a reception area, 2 private offices, and a small conference room. I had arranged for furniture rental until more permanent pieces could be purchased, and Jessica had already set up our computer network and phone system over the weekend. As I unlocked the door and stepped inside, emotion finally caught up with me. This was real. I was either embarking on an exciting new chapter or making the biggest mistake of my professional life. I placed Diana's photo on my new desk, drawing strength from her confident smile. "We are doing this," I told her image, "just like you planned." Jessica arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and bagels. "Welcome to day 1 of the revolution," she grinned, handing me a steaming cup. "What is first on the agenda?" "Client outreach," I replied, opening my laptop. I have drafted personalized emails to all 15 clients in Diana's portfolio, explaining my departure from Meridian and officially introducing Montgomery Strategic Partners. "You realize Meridian is going to go ballistic when these go out," Jessica noted. "Undoubtedly, but we have the legal right to offer our services, and the clients have the right to choose." Diana made sure of that. We spent the morning refining the messages, then took a deep breath and hit send on all 15. Within minutes, my phone began ringing. The first call was from Tom Henderson. "Well, this is interesting timing," he said after I explained the situation. "Stephanie Wells called me yesterday afternoon to inform me she would be taking over my account personally. She mentioned you had left the company, but was vague about the circumstances." "I would have preferred to give notice and ensure a smooth transition," I replied diplomatically. "Unfortunately, events unfolded differently." "Catherine, let us cut to the chase. Diana told me months ago that you might be branching out on your own and suggested I keep an open mind. She thought very highly of you, and that carries significant weight with me. I would like to meet this week to discuss continuing our relationship through your new venture." By lunchtime, 7 of the 15 clients had responded positively requesting meetings or additional information. 3 had not yet replied, and 5 had sent polite acknowledgments, but indicated they needed to evaluate their options. Not a single one had immediately declined. Jessica and I spent the afternoon preparing presentation materials and scheduling meetings. We worked seamlessly together, her digital expertise complementing my strategic approach. By evening, we had confirmed appointments with 9 clients for the coming week. "Not bad for day 1, Jessica observed as we finally prepared to leave. Diana would be proud. The next morning brought the first salvo from Meridian. A courier delivered a cease and desist letter from their legal department, claiming I was in violation of non-compete and confidentiality agreements, demanding I cease all contact with Meridian clients, and threatening immediate legal action if I continued. I forwarded the letter to Samantha, who called me within the hour. "This is mostly posturing," she assured me, after reviewing the document. Your employment contract has a non-solicitation clause but no formal non-compete. They know they cannot actually prevent clients from choosing to work with you. They are just trying to intimidate you into backing down. How should we respond? I asked. Professionally but firmly. I will draft a response making it clear that we understand our legal obligations but also asserting the client's right to choose their service providers. We will not engage in a legal battle through correspondence, but we will not be bullied either. Over the next 2 weeks, Jessica and I met with clients, presented our vision for Montgomery Strategic Partners, and emphasized the continuity we could provide given our history working alongside Diana. The response was overwhelmingly positive. By the end of the second week, 11 of the 15 clients had verbally committed to transferring their business to us, representing approximately $850,000 in annual billing. Meridian's response escalated accordingly. First came increasingly threatening legal letters. Then Stephanie herself began calling clients offering significant fee reductions to retain their business. When that had limited success, Brian Chandler, the CEO, personally reached out to several key clients. The most difficult moment came when we lost Global Partners, one of the largest accounts. Robert Daniels called to inform me that while he had been impressed with our presentation, Brian had offered a 30% fee reduction and assigned their former global director to their account. It is strictly a financial decision, he explained apologetically. In this economic climate, I cannot justify passing up those savings to my shareholders. I was disappointed but professional. I understand completely, Robert. Business decisions must prioritize value. Our door remains open should your needs change in the future. After hanging up, I allowed myself 5 minutes to feel the loss before refocusing on the clients who had chosen us. We cannot win them all, I told Jessica. Diana would say to focus on delivering exceptional results for those who believed in us, and the rest will follow eventually. 3 weeks after my termination, I received a personal call from Brian Chandler himself. His normally polished tone was strained with barely controlled anger. Catherine, this has gone far enough. You have disrupted client relationships and damaged Meridian's reputation. We are prepared to take this to court if necessary, but I would prefer to resolve this situation amicably. What do you propose, Brian? I asked calmly. Return the client documentation Diana inappropriately provided to you, cease contact with all former Meridian clients, and we will not pursue legal action for your contract violations. I took a deep breath. Brian, I appreciate your call, but there has been no inappropriate action on my part. Diana legally transferred her rights to those client relationships to me before her passing. More importantly, each client has made their own decision about who they wish to work with going forward. I cannot and will not interfere with their right to choose. This is not over, Catherine, he warned. You have no idea what you are up against. Actually, I do, I replied evenly. Diana prepared me quite thoroughly. I wish you and Meridian continued success, but Montgomery Strategic Partners will be moving forward with the clients who have chosen to work with us. After hanging up, I allowed myself a moment to appreciate how far I had come from the intimidated employee who once would have crumbled under such pressure. Diana's confidence in me had become my own. The following weeks brought both challenges and triumphs. Meridian followed through on their threat of legal action, filing a lawsuit alleging misappropriation of trade secrets and tortious interference with business relationships. Samantha assured us the case had little merit, but would require time and resources to defend. Meanwhile, Jessica and I were working 12-hour days to service our clients and establish our company infrastructure. We hired our first 2 employees, both talented professionals who had previously worked with Diana and shared our vision for client relationships built on trust and value. The most unexpected development came when Allison Myers, a senior account director from Meridian, who had always been friendly but distant, requested a lunch meeting. I will be blunt, she said after we had ordered. Things at Meridian have become toxic since you left. Stephanie is paranoid about other employees following your example, and Brian is micromanaging everything related to Diana's former clients. I have been considering my options, and I wanted to ask about your experience building something new. By the 6-month mark, Montgomery Strategic Partners had not only retained the original clients but added 4 new ones through referrals. We had expanded to a team of 7, including Allison, who brought valuable expertise in healthcare marketing. The company was not just surviving but thriving. The lawsuit from Meridian eventually settled out of court. They had realized the legal battle was costing more in fees and negative industry attention than they could hope to recover. The terms were favorable to us, requiring only that we acknowledge Meridian's ownership of specific marketing materials created during my employment there, which we had never intended to use anyway. On the anniversary of Diana's passing, I stood in our new, larger office space, watching my team collaborate on a major campaign for Henderson Manufacturing. The portfolio Diana had entrusted to me, originally valued at $1.2 million, had grown to nearly $2 million in annual billing. More importantly, we had built a company culture that honored her values of integrity, excellence, and genuine client relationships. That evening, I received an email that brought tears to my eyes. It was from Laura Montgomery, Diana's daughter. I wanted to reach out on this difficult anniversary to thank you for honoring Mom's legacy. She told me about her plans to help you start your own firm, and she was so confident in your abilities. Seeing Montgomery Strategic Partners thrive would make her incredibly proud. She always said you were the daughter of her professional life. In that moment, I felt Diana's presence more strongly than I had since her passing. She had given me not just clients or business opportunities, but the courage to bet on myself and the vision to build something meaningful. The journey had been challenging, sometimes frightening, but ultimately more rewarding than I could have imagined. 1 year after Diana's funeral, Montgomery Strategic Partners had grown beyond my initial dreams. Our team now included 20 employees working from a beautiful office overlooking the city. The portfolio Diana had left me, originally worth $1.2 million in annual contracts, had expanded to $2.3 million through excellent client service and strategic growth. The crowning achievement came when the American Marketing Association announced their annual awards, and I received notification that we had won the Diana Montgomery Award for Client Service Excellence, a new category created in her honor. The irony was not lost on me. Diana had mentored me, believed in me, and now I was receiving an award named after her. At the award ceremony, I stood at the podium, looking out at the industry leaders gathered in the ballroom, including several Meridian executives who were clearly uncomfortable with my presence. Diana Montgomery taught me that marketing is not about clever slogans or flashy campaigns, I began. It is about understanding client needs so deeply that you become an invaluable partner in their success. This award honoring her legacy means more to me than I can express, because Diana was more than my boss. She was my mentor, my champion, and ultimately the person who believed in me enough to help me find my own path. I dedicated the award to Diana's memory, and to my team who had taken a leap of faith to join a new venture with an uncertain future. As I returned to my seat, I felt a profound sense of having come full circle from nervous employee to confident business owner. The path to this moment had not been easy. The first months after leaving Meridian had been filled with 18-hour workdays, constant legal concerns, and the stress of building something from scratch while under attack from my former employer. There were nights I questioned everything, wondering if I had made a catastrophic mistake that would end my career. The emotional toll had been significant as well. I had lost colleagues I considered friends when they sided with Meridian, believing the company's version of events. Industry connections I had cultivated for years suddenly became distant, uncertain which side to take in the conflict. The isolation could have been crushing without Jessica's partnership and the validation of clients who chose to follow us. My healing journey began in small ways. Each client meeting that ended with a signed contract affirmed Diana's faith in me. Each successful campaign delivered under our new banner proved we could stand on our own. The team we built, comprised of people who shared our values, became a new professional family that eased the loss of my previous workplace community. I also found unexpected support from Diana's daughter Laura, who reached out periodically to check on the company bearing her mother's name. Her approval helped ease the lingering doubts about whether I had truly honored Diana's intentions. Perhaps the most significant healing came from creating a different kind of company culture. At Montgomery Strategic Partners, we established a mentorship program for young marketing professionals named the Diana Montgomery Fellowship. Each year we selected 3 promising individuals for specialized training and development, continuing Diana's legacy of investing in talent. We also implemented policies that recognized the humanity of our team members, the flexible working arrangements, comprehensive health benefits, and a profit-sharing program that ensured everyone benefited from the company's success. These were all things Diana had advocated for at Meridian, but had been unable to fully implement under corporate constraints. 6 months after the awards ceremony, I received an unexpected email from Laura Montgomery. She had been going through her mother's personal papers and had found a letter Diana had written to me, but never sent, dated 3 months before her death. Laura had scanned it and thought I should see it. The letter revealed that Diana had been planning my independent path for much longer than I realized. She had recognized early in my career that I had the potential to build something meaningful, and she had strategically positioned me to work with her most valued clients, knowing they would form the foundation of my future business. Catherine, she had written, by the time you read this, you will have already taken the first steps into your own venture. Know that this was never a last-minute decision or a reaction to my illness. For years I have watched you grow from a talented but uncertain young professional into someone capable of creating something extraordinary. The portfolio I am leaving you is not a gift, but an investment in what I know you will build. My only regret is that I will not be there to see it flourish under your leadership. Reading those words brought both tears and profound gratitude. Diana had seen a path for me that I had not even imagined for myself, and she had meticulously prepared both me and her clients for the transition long before I knew what was coming. The most unexpected moment of closure came nearly 18 months after my departure from Meridian, when I literally bumped into Stephanie Wells at an industry conference. I had heard through the grapevine that she had left Meridian 6 months earlier, but we had not crossed paths until now. The initial awkwardness was palpable as we stood facing each other in the convention center hallway. To my surprise, it was Stephanie who spoke first. "Your company is doing well," she said, her tone neutral, but not hostile. "Congratulations on the Diana Montgomery Award." "Thank you," I replied cautiously. "I heard you left Meridian. Are you with another agency now?" She shook her head. "I am taking some time to reassess. Things changed significantly after you left. Brian became increasingly focused on short-term profits at the expense of client relationships. The culture became difficult." Something in her expression, a mixture of regret and resignation, softened my lingering resentment. "Would you like to grab coffee?" I offered impulsively. "We have a lot of history to unpack." Over the next hour, Stephanie revealed that Meridian had entered a downward spiral after losing Diana's clients. Brian had implemented aggressive cost-cutting measures, leading to layoffs and corner-cutting that further damaged client relationships. Several other major accounts had eventually departed, and the company's reputation had suffered. "I realized too late what Diana had been trying to protect," Stephanie admitted. "The values that built Meridian were being systematically dismantled for quarterly profits. You saw it before I did." "Diana saw it before either of us," I corrected gently. "She tried to change things from within until she could not anymore." As we parted, I surprised both of us by handing Stephanie my business card. "If you ever want to talk about opportunities, my door is open. We could use someone with your experience." The gesture was not merely professional courtesy, but a recognition that sometimes people get caught in broken systems, and everyone deserves a chance to find a better path. Diana would have done the same. Looking back now, 2 years after that fateful funeral, I understand that Diana's final gift was not just the client portfolio that launched my company. It was the profound lesson that we must define success on our own terms and have the courage to create environments where values and relationships matter more than corporate hierarchies or quarterly profits. I built Montgomery Strategic Partners not just as a marketing agency, but as a testament to the principle that business can be both profitable and ethical, both strategic and human. Each new client, each team member who joins us, each successful campaign reinforces what Diana knew all along: when you build on a foundation of genuine value and integrity, success follows naturally. The journey from that envelope at the funeral to where I stand today was neither easy nor straightforward. There were legal battles, and sleepless nights, doubts, and setbacks. But through it all, Diana's confidence became my North Star, guiding me forward when my own belief faltered. What would you fight for if you knew you deserved more than what others decided you were worth? That question has shaped my leadership in my life since the day I smiled at Stephanie's termination notice, knowing I had already begun building something better. If my story resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more about building a career and a life on your own terms. Share in the comments a time when you had to take a leap of faith to honor your own worth. Remember, sometimes the end of one chapter is exactly what you need to write a better story. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to create your own path when the moment comes.